Hi, my name is Awesome Aguilera, and welcome to WEYT, the show where I find interesting people just like you and discover what's going on between their ears. Now, let's get to know one another. All right, here we are, another episode of WEYT. Awesome Aguilera here, and today's mantra is: music in itself is healing. It's an explosive expression. No matter what culture we're from, it's something that touches the depth of our humanity. And that was said by none other than the piano man, Billy Joel. And today, my guest is Damian, Jesus Sanchez. And my relationship with Damian is we both went to Miami High. I consider Damian to be an amazing musician. Amazing. I can't really say how many amazings. I think the talent of the man sitting here is. Who are you, Damian? Tell us a little more about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me once again on the show. It's a real pleasure. It's a real honor. Damian J here, a fellow musician, visionary, writer, thinker, enlightened individual on the same path as you, just trying to figure out what to do with this existence. But yes, my main occupation is music, as I do it for a living here in the city of Magic, Miami, Florida. And I've been back now about 8 years. Before that, I was traveling all over the world and playing music with all kinds of different folks and enjoying my development as a musician and as a person. But I came back to Miami in 2012 to take care of my mother, who had lost her sight due to diabetes, and her health declined eventually, succumbing to her death in 2016. I've been here ever since. So it's been a journey for me because I was gone and then I came back, and I've been here ever since trying to establish what is the Damian J Project. The Damian J Project is my own short little mantra because I always say that it is Miami's open source musical collaboration dedicated to the preservation, development, and education of jazz. Okay. That is, I organize small ensembles of friends and fellow colleagues that are amazing musicians who perform specific styles of jazz. What does that mean? That means that I'm not going to get the guys that play Lohana Nights Latin jazz to play in the trad 305 Dixieland band. So it's a very niche kind of thing that I've done, spearheading this movement underground here in Miami, as jazz has always been. It's never really quite been at the forefront. It's been close, and there have been periods of popularity, but the music that I love, the passion that I have for improvisation and call and response and swing is known as jazz. That all developed in the limelights of New York and Chicago and New Orleans. And every part of the United States added its own flavor, but it never was the prevalent sounds of the era. You could dispute that with the big bands and so, but nonetheless, I digress. The Damian J Project has become my passion, and me developing those sounds with those different groups is what I do on a daily basis, apart from a million other things that I enjoy doing. I'm a very diverse, versatile person. I love to read. I love to cook. I've started an online cooking show, Quarantine Cuisine, featuring whatever we got in the kitchen and making the best of a bad situation. That's my little mantra for Quarantine Cuisine. So as you can see, I try to keep my mind occupied, because our bodies might be in quarantine during these times, but our minds are as free as a bird to wander wherever you want to go. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. One of the things that comes up for me is take me back to little Damian before he knew how to play music. Or do you think you were born knowing how to play music?
No, sir. If there's one thing I'm going to take to the grave, is the knowledge that I was not born a musician. If anything, I always wanted to be a detective. And from a very small age, I had a magnifying glass, and I loved to read, and I enjoyed the smell of the pipe. And so one of my idols was Sherlock Holmes, and I used to read those books, and I always dreamed of being a federal agent and being on some sort of entangling mystery, solving all kinds of cases. But at the age of 12, I had a friend who was an albino from Nicaragua.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting character. His name was Lester. And,
Shout out to Lester.
Yeah, I haven't talked to that man in 20 years pretty much because, people grow apart. We, in a sense, physically speaking, more than anything, our minds are still linked, connected in this universe that we all coexist in.
Yeah.
But Lester was teased, and I used to sit with him at homeroom. And so I was the only one that was really close to him in that time period. He grew out of that, he became very popular, but at that time period, I felt like I was the closest to him. And it was our 6th grade year, which means it was the first year that we had been allowed electives. I had taken Spanish because my mother said I needed to practice my Spanish because it was terrible, but she said my English was worse. So, I really know I was like a Cheech and Chong situation. I didn't really speak English. I was just kind of illiterate all around. But at 12 years old, 6th grade, I'm sitting in homeroom, and Lester, every homeroom, all he did was talk about how much fun he had in band with Mr. Vitale. Mr. Charles Vitale, legendary band director for Citrus Grove Middle School back in 1992, right?
I went to Shenandoah, so.
Oh, so you were with Miss Shandell.
Mm-hmm,
Miss Edie Shandell, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who was, I feel like those times were magical. Maybe it's just because we're older now, but I feel like everybody that had something to do with musical education back then was like a superhero. All they needed was a cape because we all thought they were bigger than life.
Yeah.
And so,
I still feel that about Miss F that we called her, but
Oh yeah. Well, that's a whole other animal right there. Yeah. But anyway, Lester just made me fall in love with the idea of playing an instrument. And although I didn't really want to do it, it wasn't in me. It was something that I just wanted to explore besides Spanish, because that lady that taught Spanish, Miss Rodriguez, she was getting on my nerves. She used to call me Colgate, which is the toothpaste, because I was always smiling. Yeah, viene Colgate. And I was always smiling. It was one of those situations where I just didn't want to be made fun of anymore in that class. It was funny. I was the center of the jokes. Uh-huh. So I went ahead and I took band in the 7th grade. And Mr. Vitale, who was part of the reason I was taking the band class, retired. And nobody knew. It was a huge surprise. And so I was about to embark on this musical journey with someone that nobody had any idea who it was. I'll never forget how I met him, because even though I was young, I still remember to this day making him feel bad. I walked into the band room with my mom, because at that time, well, pretty much as long as I lived in Miami, my mother always used to walk me to the first day of class, not just to school, but inside of every class.
Inside the class.
Yeah. She was very protective of us, me and my brother. And so I walk in there with my mom, and my mom asked in Spanish, she says, hey, are you the band director? And then I figured he didn't speak Spanish. So then I kind of butted in and introduced myself. Hey, I'm in this class. Do you know where Mr. Vitale is? And that's how I found out that Mr. Vitale was not coming back. And that, indeed, even though he was setting up chairs and looked like a janitor because he had keys on his side, it was actually Carlos Perez, who was the man who started me on this journey, partially. The other half was Mr. John Hamm, who I took piano and theory and guitar with. General music class is what they called it back then. But it was a very interesting beginning to this musical journey. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know anything about this guy. He was super young. He was like 25 years old. He had just finished his education degree at Florida State University, and he was just getting into it. And I felt like, man, I'm studying with a kid. I figured that I was gonna have some good education with this Vitale character. And lo and behold, I'm making a big deal of this, because at that age, you're like freaking out, like saying, did I make a mistake here? And within a year, I had learned so much, and I had progressed so much, that I don't know how much of that was talent, innate, raw talent, and how much of that was true wisdom from my teacher, and how much of that was just diligence and effort, which is what I, to this day, believe. I was not born a musician. It took a lot of hard work, and I'm still nowhere near the top. I think that's one of the things that attracted me to music. is the fact that you never stop learning, you know. Every other career path kind of has an end, but with music, even though you might think you're at the top, something new will come out. And the most amazing thing about music is that we compose everything in this side of the world based on 12 tones. I say in this side of the world because in India and Turkey, when you hear them going, they're actually writing out those 30-second tones that they're singing.
Yeah.
Here, we base it on 12 tones, 12 semi-steps, half tones that go up and down. That's it. They can be higher, they can be lower, but it's 12 tones. And look at all the music that we got. It's amazing how much music we have.
Yeah.
So much music. There's one of my best friends is Mr. Michael V. Wood, who's a guitarist. He's 81 years old, but he acts like he's 12 years old. Very interesting character from England that has been in Miami since the 70s. He actually finished his education at the University of Miami in classical guitar, and now he's a jazz guitarist around town. I used to read about this guy when I was in Miami High because he started one of the first jazz jams at Churchill's.
Yeah.
So if you ever heard of jazz at Churchill's Pub, that was began by Sir Michael V. Wood, as we call him. And Mike always says to me, there's too much music in the world. There's just so much music. So, I mean, that's one of the things that always attracts me about this art is that I'm never done creating it. And they're just like, when you think that you copied someone else, you can turn around. Yeah, you can copy somebody and an idea somehow rhythmically. There's two parts to music. It's the rhythm and it's the pitch. When you're going to play it is just as important as how high or how low it's going to sound.
Yeah.
And so you can copy people on one of those two spectrums, or you can go completely 360 and do your own thing. But the sky is the limit. It truly is an amazing power to be able to craft your own music. And so that's one of the things that keeps bringing me back. But in conclusion to your question, I was not born a musician. I'm still working on it now as well as others.
Well, that's the foundation of what creates greatness, right? Because you mentioned that you didn't know if it was talent or that you have the talent, but you also have that drive to continue and to understand that there is no such thing as I can't get better. that doesn't exist.
I teach now and I see the kids and I'm still waiting for a kid that's like me. Because you could tell children, adults, doesn't matter. I teach all ages. Yeah. But you can tell when a student
has it.
And no, not that they have it, if they want to have it.
Yeah. That
they really sit there, you know, especially with the woodwinds. I play every single woodwind. I've studied every single woodwind. It's about 13 different instruments that I study closely. And with the woodwinds, it's all about very slow development of muscle. Your face is full of muscle. And your diaphragm is one of the biggest muscles that you're going to exercise when you're playing music. As a woodwind artist, you need to spend a lot of time just and blowing those notes and long notes and going up and down and hearing. You listen while you're thinking you're sitting there just blowing hot air. So you're actually listening for pitch. You're listening for your internalization of tempo, the time that you're feeling inside you, keeping it steady. You're thinking about developing those muscles. You're thinking about dynamics, volume, how loud, how soft you're going to play that note. You're thinking about tone and how it's going to sound. Is it going to be a shrill sound? Is it going to be a dark sound? Is it going to be a beautiful sound? You might even include vibrato and other artistic things like that you want to actually measure and control. Think about it. The first half of being a musician is having all this control. It's kind of like life. And once you get to have all that control, under control, we take away those blinders and you're free to roam. But guess what? You're going to roam in order. Because all this time you've been writing in order. Yeah. And that's one of the things about music education that makes it so wonderful is that they teach you the structure to let you be free.
That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way of putting it. You know, it's an art, and art is infinite. We, unfortunately, these forms that we are in are not infinite. But this art that we create is so much even bigger than we are because it is infinite. So since I brought up Miss Michelle Fernandez and you said that was a whole other animal, what do you mean by that?
It's no secret. I loved Miami High. And when I was done with my second year of band. It was only 2 years that I did of junior high band because I didn't do it in the 6th grade. I did Spanish. And so after 2 years of being in band, I wanted to play music more than anything. I mean, when I first started on this, man, it was like whatever kids do nowadays, is it Minecraft or Fortnite or whatever one of those things that makes kids grow, the Pokemons. That's how I felt about music. I had to do it all the time. And I wanted to do it with everybody. And I just had to get more and more and more in CDs and sheets and reeds and the equipment. And I'm very meticulous about equipment, you know. Borderline.
I can see it in the background.
Everything around me. I have my guitar, I have my saxophones, I have everything, my piano, I have everything set up to play music because it's something that I'm obsessed with all the time. Thinking about it, I do it when I'm just not even playing. I move my fingers. I'm thinking about riffs that I want to write down, rhythms and songs and melodies and everything. And so when the end of junior high came about, nothing, especially with you guys coming over, not you specifically, but Yorkie used to come over and give lessons. Ruben would come over. Yeah. Well, Ruben was with me. So actually he went over, we were in Miami High. But you know everybody that I'm talking about. Habib used to come over. Yeah. Adrian would come over with Yorkie. I mean, it was, you know.
It sounds like the whole drum line was there.
Yeah, no, they would come over and give lessons. And that would just, really, the only sax player I ever saw was Rodrigo. He came over once, I think. Yeah. But it was just one of those things that you wanted to go to Miami High. You wanted to become part of that tradition. And the first day there, the first day of band camp for me was the summer of 1995. In the summer of 1995, I'm sitting there. It was about 320 people in that room, in that band room. And Ms. F came down there, and Chris Pelletier was there with her. Yeah. And she sat down, threw down her keys and her cell phone. And she was in a bad mood because somebody had stolen her cell phone. That was a new cell phone. Oh. And she said that was like the 3rd cell phone. And she started ranting about that. And then she told us about what it meant to put on that uniform. She told us what her life was going to be like because most of us were freshmen. We had never worn that uniform. This was going to be the first time we were going to spawn those colors. And we needed to know what we were going to be in for. Crowds cheering, pressure to have music ready, perfection on the field, as well as in the band room, concerts, performance on a regular basis. Things that would have it was a freak out speech. I mean, this is the first time you're meeting this person. She comes in with a cup of coffee and an attitude, and you're ready to jump out of that room, man. I'm talking about the pressure was so high. The tension was so thick you could cut in with a knife in that air, man. It was just one of those situations that I will never forget. And that was my first day at Miami High. And I wanted to be part of everything that legacy, that legend of Miami High had to do with. Now, what happened was, when I got kicked out, I was kicked out of the band. I was kicked out of the band 2 years after I started in the band. Very simple. I went and I auditioned for another school, and Zeph felt she was betrayed, plain and simple. And she said, you know, she came personally to my house, asked for any of the loaned equipment that I had, all various things from uniforms to music to, I don't know what else she took, but it was just everything that represented, as she said, the $1 Million Band. Yeah. And you can't excommunicate somebody from the band like that. But I just knew that I was not going to grow. I was not going to be in Jazz Band 1, regardless of how hard I practiced and how much I wanted it. I was not going to get to that level. I was not going to be at that level with those guys. So I left. I mean, I auditioned for the school, but ironically, I didn't get in.
Where did you go? Where did you try to go?
New World School of the Arts.
Yeah, to New World, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I figured. And what's interesting, and you know, I haven't shared this story a lot yet, is that I also was kicked out of the band. But I was kicked out of the band for completely different reasons. I was kicked out of the band because I was a little asshole. And I called myself, basically, I called her a bitch in front of the whole jazz band. And you know she was not going to have that.
No, she made me cry again. And I didn't want it anymore. And she caught my mom by surprise that day. She comes and knocks on my door. And my mother had a huge migraine. And so nothing really happened. I just kind of cried myself to sleep that night and decided that I was going to go as far away from Miami High as possible. So my junior year was spent at Southwest Miami Senior High School. And then that didn't work out because there was no room for growth there.
Yeah.
And so it was just, the director was amazing. One of the warmest, most loving people that I owe tremendous amounts to everybody that's taught me along the way, even Ms. F. You
Yeah.
taught me a tremendous amount about being perfect, as
Yeah.
good as you can be, sharpening that skill to no end.
Yeah.
But Mr. Doug Pfeiffer was over at Southwest. He was another superhero for me because he had the funniest, driest humor you could ever imagine. He was always on the outside in a bad mood, but he was laughing at it. And now I realize he was laughing on the inside because he was a very happy person. And he took his kid to school every day. What dad gets to take his kid and have him in band and right next to him? It was a beautiful time for me. I'm glad I was able to share a year of that. But I moved on because my senior year I got into the payback. My senior year I did the Performing Arts Visual Arts Center.
Okay.
At that point, it was the facility for the arts in Miami, Florida, that Miami-Dade Public Schools had poured the most money into. I forgot how many millions of dollars they poured into this school to build the payback as part of Miami Northwestern Senior High School. And that's where I attended. I attended the payback at Miami Northwestern Senior High School. And I graduated from there and thus concluded my public education in this world. And, come to think about it, you can't say it enough. You only get one ride. That's what I don't say it to the kids enough because I don't think they're going to listen. But there's only one life. You only get to live this once. You might as well enjoy it. You don't think I wish I could go back to those days and do right by one of those schools that I went to? And meanwhile, my grades were A's and B's. I had terrific, mostly A's. I had one or two B's. And my GPA was an A average, A to A plus average, and I had honors in AP. 1 year I had nothing but AP classes and band, because that's the level that I kept myself to. I was very studious as well as musical. I balanced the two out, so it wasn't like I was just doing music. Yeah. I love learning. I just love learning. I still do, One of my hobbies now, apart from cooking, is languages. I practice my languages all the time.
So you want to be a polyglot?
Yeah, polyglot. Well, but it's fine tuning those things. Every day learning vocabulary and different.
Well, if you think about it, all language is the original instrument.
No, and music is a language. So that's why I feel like I adapt so well to languages. At first it was English, French, and Spanish. Those were my three languages for the longest. Yeah. And then music came along. Yeah. And then after music came along, I developed all the instruments in the woodwind family, not just the oboe. Yeah. From the oboe, I went to the sax. From the sax, I went to the flute. From the flute, I went to other saxes. Eventually, the piccolo. The last thing I picked up, no, not the last, was the clarinet after that. Then the bass clarinet. Then the bassoon.
Listen to these eighth notes.
Then the English horn. I mean, there was no end to what I was going to do until I met the right person that didn't think I was crazy. Yeah. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to ask you the question that this show is about. Tell me, in our post-COVID world, I'm sure this has had a huge effect on the entertainment industry, but what's been engaging your thoughts lately?
Well, as I said, I try to keep my mind occupied because the first month of quarantine, I've been in quarantine since March 12th. March 12th was my last free day in the world. One of those reasons is that I traveled by bus and train everywhere. And so it was about that time when they started really cracking down on the restrictions and the schedules and all kinds of things that made it impossible for me to go anywhere. Plus, the only steady income I had was teaching lessons at the Kendall Conservatory of Music, and he closed down shortly thereafter. So that's what I'm saying. My last day in the real world was March 12th. I've been indoors since then. And for the first 30 days, all I did, all that engaged my thoughts was, is this the end of the world? Mm-hmm. Is the end coming? Should I live it up? Should I just bury myself in this hole like they're telling us to do? And all I did was watch not in the news on TV, but YouTube has a live map. They have several, but it's by the Royal Live Stats. And
But like BBC more.
like BBC, more towards the British, because I feel like the British are more honest. Because that's another thing, you can't trust anybody. But anyways, my majority of the time was spent looking at that map and listening to the BBC News. I don't know, I feel like I really trust the Brits. You know, I trust England. Anyways, but nonetheless, the news was the same. It was dismal. The numbers continued to grow, and the fact that we don't know everything about this because it's so new and it continues to evolve and it continues to give us all new clues is what made it so nerve-wracking day to day. And it was at that point that I said, I cannot let my own psyche, based on this new world that is emerging, take me over. I must cease and desist from the YouTubing and the sitting around, and I really had no energy. And, you know, I ate once a day because what are you going to do? You're going to start gaining all this weight? I mean, I wasn't going to do that. I didn't really feel like it. I mean, it wasn't one of those reactions for me. Some people do eat out of anxiety, and that's why I gained weight. For me, everything changed after my mom. I went up in weight tremendously, and then I went through a physical change on my own through my mind. It wasn't me doing any exercise or anything crazy. It was about me eating, dissecting what I eat, and really learning what the difference between foods are when you put them in your body and the damages or the great things that they do to your body. So it wasn't one of those situations where I wanted to eat all the time. I just sat there and I watched the news on the YouTube, and I listened to the radio news, and I just had to have a change. So at that point, for the first 30 days, what engaged my thoughts was truly, is this the end? Then one student changed my life. It was a mother that called me about her son taking piano on the internet through Skype. Because the thing about Zoom, right now we don't have a problem, it seems like. But it seems like when you're playing an instrument, it cuts off the sound, the audio doesn't work very well. So I do it on
like
Skype.
Eclipse?
Yeah, like it clips, and then you can't play together for duets and stuff. I play duets and everything with the kids on Skype, you know?
Yeah.
And so what changed my life at that point, a month into what I call COVID world, was a mom who wanted me to start teaching her son online. That occupied my mind. Well, what else can I do with that? Well, around that same time, a very good friend of mine from college, because I made tremendous amounts of connections in my lifetime, my existence on this planet, and I feel very close to all of them. And that's another thing that engaged my thoughts and engages my thoughts to this day, is how connected am I to my friends, and how connected can I get? You know, I want to keep those relationships, and there's so many. But it's saying, hey, a message or a phone call or a Skype every once in a while to all my friends. I have friends all over the world, and each one of those relationships is very meaningful, and I want to keep it that way. So that's one of the things that engages my thoughts. But I started to see that my friend in Oregon, he lives in Oregon, Orlandito Colombiano, he has a YouTube channel. It's called The Smarty Pants, if anybody wants to check him out. It's about him and his family. He has 3 kids. One of them looks like that actor, Gordon Levitt. It's so funny. And they're funny. They're funny kids. And they just go around doing kid things, and they have a YouTube channel about it. The mom does all the video, and Orlando's in the videos every once in a while. But it's a really cool thing that they've procreated. And so I said, why don't I do something like that? So then I started, you know, what I love to do besides playing music is cook. And my music, since it's mainly based on the jazz orientation, it does not appeal to everyone. The hip hoppers, the rappers, the rockers are all good friends of mine. They're not really gonna want to sit there and listen to me play jazz. And that's what everybody was doing all these streams and stuff. And who's gonna listen to that for an hour? Cut off the audio clips. It doesn't sound good. You can't even see the guy well. It stops. You know, so many problems that I wanted to do it right. And I thought about doing it right so many times, how to do a concert online, but really high quality, that I said, it just can't be done. It just can't. And seeing all these famous people is what sealed the deal for me, because they had that Elton John went on the TV broadcasting all these stars and they were singing and it was horrible. Not because the stars were horrible, because it's just horrible to have this type of living. I can't live like this. I can't live with a mask. I can't live restricted from society. And you know, it was just so much that it geared my mind towards doing something different. So I didn't do the concert. I ended up doing a cooking show because cooking is one of the things that is my passion. And it became more of my passion after my mother passed away because I feel like it gets me closer to her. My mother never, ever wanted me to cook anything. In fact, she told me I was a horrible cook. And I think that's one of the things that drove me about my mother. She always had something to say that made me laugh. It was usually bad, but she's a person that made me laugh so much throughout my whole life with my mom. I never had a dull moment with my mom. I was always excited to see her, even when we fought, which was very often. But, you know, it's something that I feel when I'm in the kitchen, I feel like I'm close to her and I'm close to my grandmother because I was raised by my mother and her mother, my grandmother, and then my mother's sister, my aunt. So it was 3 women that raised me. I never had any male parental figure. Well, friends and stuff, but I didn't have a dad or a stepdad or anything officially in my life growing up. I had those 3 strong women, and they were very strong, and they all knew how to cook. My aunt, when I was young, she was an amazing cook. I used to love over there, going over there and eating over there. My grandma worked for one of the Castro brothers. There were 3 Castro brothers. People don't know that. They know about Raul and they know about Fidel, but they don't know about Ramon. And my grandmother was the chef for Ramon, or worked in his kitchen for many years. And my grandmother, according to my brother, because my brother's the one that actually remembers more details. My brother is my only sibling. He is a master chef now. Amazing experience, has gone to 2 amazing schools, Johnson in Wales and the Cordon Bleu, and he's worked in every 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 restaurant you could think of in the city of Miami, Orlando, and Jersey City, New Jersey, where he lived, those 3 locations throughout his life. So he's someone that one day is going to have an amazing restaurant, eatery, diner, whatever he comes up with to make his dishes is going to be worthwhile. But he's the one that told me my grandmother made bechamel. Bechamel is a very difficult sauce. I don't know how to make it. I know that starts with a roux kind of thing. It's very French. And so cooking to me has always appealed to me. And at first I used to do everything with a recipe. And that's the first thing my mom taught me. When I came home from college and I was trying to take care of her and stuff, and on and off, I would come home and I would do something in the kitchen. She'd always say the same thing. Receta, recipes. You don't know anything about cooking. Get out of here. You know, and that's the way she was. She was just abrasive like that. And she made me laugh more than anything. But I kept trying and I kept being diligent. And to this day now, what I developed has been a way of doing things in the kitchen that is not with a recipe card. You know, when I make a meat, a protein, I typically have some sort of seasoning. I don't measure those seasonings. I lay out the meat and I season it very spatially and visually until I can see the seasoning on it. I don't know how much that is. I'm not going to measure how much it is. I just know that if I cover that surface area, it's more about physics in a sense. If that surface area is nice and compact, it's going to cover that animal well. It's going to have the amount of flavor that you need. And that's how I feel about it. And the first thing you add is salt, because salt opens up the pores. And thus, when you have the pores open, then it'll take in all the other flavors. If you don't add salt at first, and you add it last, it's not going to taste as good. You got to add salt first. You cover things in salt, and then you put in your seasoning. That's how you get meat seasoned, if you're going to season.
See all the things we learn through discussions and conversations.
I love cooking. It's an eternal, it keeps me going. I love chess. It's an amazing game. I love languages. It's all different, you know? And like I told you, that's a lot of what made me change. From the year 2017 until now, I've kept off 67 pounds. Nice. I was down 77 to 80 pounds, but I gained some of that back. But it's not been the quarantine 15. It's been over the course of 4 years now. You know,
but now you know it's that you just need to tweak some things here and there, and you know you can get back dialed in.
Get back dialed in. No, I got 30 pounds more before I have a normal BMI. Yeah. Right. So when I was down to my lowest, I still had about 20 pounds to go.
Even though BMI is, you know, like BMI is, it's definitely not my favorite thing to keep track of. When I have my clients and I take on all their measurements, I'll take it, but it's not my go-to.
I talked about my brother, but the other person that was raised with me as a kid was my cousin, my first cousin. He went to the University of Florida, and he graduated with a bachelor's in exercise science and human performance. And he's a personal trainer. And I wish that he would be more out there because he's not. He has his clients at So Me Fitness. It's like South Miami.
Okay.
And that's about it for him. He needs to get out there and do more, because look at you, man. I mean, you've trained the best. You've done so much. And it's just amazing how you've developed. And I've watched you just flourish in the world of health because it's important to be healthy, right?
I think of it more of wellness, because it's not just exercise. It's not just eating. It's a puzzle. It really is a puzzle. And, it starts with mindfulness. How are you thinking? What are the stories you're telling yourself? And then, I don't even want to start telling you the amount of research that I've read that always comes down to, if you want to be healthy and well, exercise, sleep, and eat well. Like, I'm so tired of that being the conclusion. But the reason it's the conclusion is because it works.
Yeah, no, and it's about, there's so many variables that you could tweak in that equation that can help you lose more weight when you eat. Yeah. How you eat. How long does it take you to eat? What do you combine all those foods with? It's the chemical reactions that really can make you lose weight. Now I'm addicted to a little bit of apple cider in my water. So now when I drink my water, I have a little bit of apple cider at least twice a day. I try not to overdo it because that's not, nothing too much is good for you. Everything in moderation. That's what the generations have taught us. But I have gotten to the point at first, in February of 2017, that's when I started drinking apple cider vinegar. It was horrible. Who's going to like drinking vinegar? Yeah. But now it's almost like a lemony kind of taste to me. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting how your taste buds adapt, right? And how they change.
Yes, they truly have, because like I'm saying, at first it was just vinegar. Now it's like this amazing thing that I gotta have in my water. Because I
can remember the first time I actually tasted cauliflower. Because when you're young, you're a kid, you're like, I don't want that. And after eating it in the beginning, when I would eat it, I'd be like, okay, I know I'm supposed to eat this, but my mindset was like forcing it down. And after a while of eating it, I ate it one day and I'm like, you know what, this, number one, it doesn't even really have a strong flavor at all. It doesn't really taste like much of anything. But the taste that it does have is a very faint taste of sweetness. Just very, very faint. And it's a very neutral taste with just a little bit of sweetness just right at the end. And it took a while for my taste buds to develop to be able to even taste that.
Well, but the thing about cauliflower, my friend, is that, first of all, it's super nutritious for you. Yeah. You can get full and not get any impact in a negative way from cauliflower. But also, cauliflower takes on any flavor very easily. So if you char broil it, it tastes just like a steak. Yep. If you steam it and put some sesame seed oil on top, it tastes just like edamame or something else. You could always masquerade it and camouflage it however you want. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very versatile. So now, next question I wanted to go over. If you could speak to somebody dead or alive, who would that be?
My mom.
Okay.
Just to have another laugh. Just to see how the other side is. Maybe it's just too soon. But yeah, that's the first person that comes to mind.
That's it. That's all it needs to be. What are some of the resources? If you can think of just 3 resources through your whole vast experience, what are 3 of the resources that have inspired you the most?
Resources that have inspired me?
Be a book, a movie, a podcast, a song, anything.
It definitely would be a book. I mean, movies inspire me, but books, my imagination is very wild, and books incite that imagination. And there's been so many instances, if you're a reader, that you read a book and then you watch a film based on the book. And it does not do it justice at all. You had it all planned out, man. I had the soloist all planned out, and then Jamie Foxx come out here looking like, no, man, that's not how I had it in my mind, man. But that's how Hollywood had it in their minds. I think that books in general have always been one of my greatest resources. really changed my entire life. And probably the greatest book that I ever read is one that I've read like 3 or 4 times, and it's the biography of Dexter Gordon. And Dexter Gordon is probably who I look up to the most in the music world, because not just because of the way that he played, but the thing about Dexter Gordon, if you read his biography, then Dexter Gordon was just style in life as a human being. What he showed on stage, he showed off stage as well. And he was just so cool, so loving, so giving, that I've never read anything bad about him. I've read bad things about Miles Davis. I've read bad things about John Coltrane, and stories from people that played with those guys and said they were hard. Charlie Parker was one of my greatest heroes, and he was supposedly a drug addict that was hawking things and taking people's things to buy drugs. I mean, you don't hear about that from Dexter Gordon. Dexter Gordon was actually kind of rich and grew up kind of rich, kind of like Miles Davis, you know. And so these are people that they did not have meager beginnings to start with. So they didn't have to be stealing for drugs and stuff. But that biography of Dexter's is probably one of the books that I've read the most over and over and over. The second resource that I would say is definitely my instruments. I mean, my instruments have been my escape. You know, I can't really, that's the thing about being a true doubler or woodwind artist, as I officially have titled myself, because of what I do, because I can't decide. I have my first love, which is the oboe, but I have the flute, which calms me down no matter how mad I am. And you know, like you have a fight with a chick or something. For me, it's the flute that calms me down. That takes away all my stress and just makes me so calm. The bassoon is so exciting. I've been playing a lot of bassoon lately because I got a bassoon student. And it's just one of those things that you're just always excited to play the damn bassoon. It's just so much fun. The saxophone is my reflection. It's who I am. I mean, and me without a sax, it's like, you know, somebody without clothes on. It's just what I speak through is my saxophone. You know, it embodies me the most. And so my instruments cannot be distinguished. That'll be my saxophone. My third resource would be food. Because think about it, good times, bad, sex times, anytime. You're always thinking about something. You can always relate it to some food or some drink that you had. And that's what rounds out our life. I mean, that's what I'm thinking we can't lose in this whole COVID thing. And if we can't sit and have dinner with friends after you grew up, after you're 18, presents don't mean that much. It's the moments that you share that mean everything, whether it's family, friends, loved ones. It's the moments that you share that keep driving you towards existence. Otherwise, there's no point to it. What kind of life is that? It's like, I heard this Bill Maher thing, and he said, you know, why are you going to have a dog if you can't pet it? Why are you going to have a life if you can't live it?
Yes, that's fantastic.
Food is one of those things that ties it all together. I mean, it doesn't matter what food it is, but food. And you don't have to abuse it. You know, you don't have to use it for bad. It's just something that is essential to our lives that we must all harness at our own rate. You know, some people could eat 10 cheeseburgers and come back tomorrow and have these ripped abs, you know? And then some people, I try not to eat that much, but eventually I do. But I balance everything with a lot of salad, a lot of plants going in my body every day. It's more of a plant-based body with very little protein. But you know, it's all about what you eat at the end of the day. So the three resources that I would say have influenced me the most is food, is my instruments, my woodwinds, and that book of Dexter Gordon. I mean, each one of those things, if you take those things away from me, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know how I developed a human being. I don't know if I would have evolved as much if you take things like that away from me. I mean, it's what's driven me all my life.
Eso, tremenda tortilla, serie. Eso es lo que hay, un tortillo, un restaurante así, eso, qué rico.
Awesome. That's beautiful. If you could go back and see your 18-year-old mother, what advice would you give her?
Well, first of all, my mom didn't have me till she was 40.
Yeah,
so
you're a time traveler now. You're a time traveler. You
Well,
go back, you see her at 18 years old. What's the pearl of wisdom that you would try to drop into her mind?
Well, there's a backstory there because my mother was very sad about her own existence. She felt like she had not accomplished anything, anything in life, even though she had two boys that are going to be amazing. But she felt like that. So I would tell her to never fall in love, to never go after anybody, just follow her dreams and really try to make something of her life to where she has something to look back on and be proud of, accomplishment. I don't know if anybody ever really told her that, there were so many things going on. At age 18, apparently my mom went to prison in Cuba, which was not a difficult thing to do when the revolution came.
Yeah.
And so it was like you went to work in the farm. We were from Pinar del Rio, and Pinar del Rio is very undeveloped. And so it was either you work in the farms when the revolution came, or you went to jail, and she probably resisted. I don't know exactly why she went to jail, but she told me a story once about being in some sort of prison camp or some sort of, it sounded like an intermittent camp or something. And she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have been there. She should have lived to the fullest, accomplished everything she wanted. And she never wanted to come to this country. My mother always said that she would have stayed in Cuba. She would have had a good life because of the bad luck that she had here. Like I said, she felt like she never accomplished. She felt like that. I don't think so. My brother doesn't agree, but that was her whole plight. So if I was to travel back to 1958 and tell my mom anything, it would be for her to study hard, to stay in school as much as she could, and to make the most of her life, whether it be on that island or anywhere else in the world. I mean, she could have gone anywhere with as much spunk, and that's the thing about everybody in my family. We have a lot of spunk, and we're very flavorful people.
Yeah,
we draw on everybody. We talk to everybody. We're very sociable people. She could have gone to Spain. She could have learned the language and gone to England. She really never mastered English, but she could have learned it at that age. I bet you she was just worried about surviving. And that's one of the things that horrible revolution did for people. It took away their childhood. A lot of those kids didn't have a childhood. They had to grow up real quick.
Yeah, they had to grow up real quick. One of the things I heard in a podcast with this COVID thing was, times have been soft for quite some time, at least kind of in the United States. And soft times make soft people. Where hard times make hard times make people that can deal with some stuff.
They've come together, man. I'm very happy to see a lot of things when I go out. I go out every day to walk, or when it doesn't rain. Now on top of the COVID, we have rain all the time.
Yeah,
there's always something going on. But in general, I think that people have learned their lesson to value each other and to value their families over the money that they're going to make. Because if you take away the money, which is what Corona did, you take away the money, what do you got?
Yeah.
We're all the same when you take away the money.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any question you would like to ask me?
I want to know where you see yourself in 20 years. What is your economics, your social, and your political status 20 years from now? Where do you see yourself?
Let's see. So where I see myself in 20 years, well, in about a month and a half, I'm about to move to Colorado. So that's going to be a change to begin with. But in 20 years, I hope that I have been able to attain, number one, financial stability.
That's what we're all chasing, baby.
Yeah, at least in this culture. And, I would like to have that. And if I could have that, I would use it to then have location independence, because I would love to travel the world and get to know more people and have more discussions like this. So in 20 years, I hope, if I'm really manifesting things correctly, that I could have just financial stability that leads to location independence. As for my politics, I don't know what it'll be, but I know right now I'm pretty much a moderate. But I also think that all of this that we're living are just stories we tell ourselves. And you're free to understand that you don't have to accept the story as it is, and you can make your own story. And the example I have for that is, look, we live in a world that has Scientology, right? I may not agree with that.
You'll be like, oh, wow.
No, I know the story of Scientology, and that's what I'm saying. I may not agree with anything that that philosophy or religion says, but that guy, L. Ron Hubbard, had the intestinal fortitude to create something and just say, I don't care what anybody else thinks, I'm going to do it, means that if he can do it, why can't I do something like that? Right?
James Brown said it best. Don't let anybody tell you different. You are somebody.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, you are somebody.
That's right. So I want to be able to, again, have more discussions, listen to people more. We need to listen. We need to listen a lot more than we talk, right? We need to listen a lot more than we talk. And that's one of the foundations of why I'm starting this show. I want to hear people's stories. I want to listen more so that I can learn more. And like yesterday, I was thinking of the concept of when a student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And I was thinking about it in the context of COVID. COVID is the teacher. Are you an open enough student? And that also tells me that it's not the teacher that's really important. Of course, the teacher is important, but the most important thing is the student ready to receive the lesson? Because the lessons are plentiful, the lessons are bountiful, the lessons are all around, but are you ready to receive them?
I saw one of those random, I do it randomly, that I get on the phone or whatever and look at posts or whatever. It's very random. I'm not doing that much because of what I told you. It's so negative. But I ran through one that said, if this has not taught you how to survive and hustle, then the hustle is just not in you.
Yeah.
And I have tried. Like I told you, the first month, and I have a couple of friends that were the same way. The first month, they kicked us in the ass.
Yeah.
And then we got up, like Frank Sinatra says in one of my favorite songs, and he shook off his shoes and he saw the world, You just have to do it from inside of your home. But, it's all about thriving and striving and surviving in this, and that's what I've done, with the show and students. And I've done a lot of side things that have just come out of the sky. Like I did this educational video series for the Arch Center, and they're going to be showcasing me on archcenter.org. And I'm going to be, I did a Zoom presentation about the folk music of Switzerland. Oh, wow. Because it combines my two favorite likes, reading about things and music. And Switzerland is one of the most interesting places you could ever think of musically because of their origin, which are not real origins because it's just a bunch of different demographics living in that tiny country. Anyways, I got paid for that. It was a great opportunity that I got to speak about Switzerland and their folkloric music movement that actually is still kind of going on right now. They're trying to find an identity before they became Switzerland, which they call it Helvetica. And their pact of 26 canons, as they call it, they're trying to still find their identity as we are all, but in music in that specific case. So, I mean, I've done a lot and I've stayed busy, and I'm very thankful for that. And that's what it ties back to your story of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the teacher is ready, the student will appear. I mean, it's all one with the other, the yin with the yang. Yeah. And I always go back to my teachers. And I don't have one, I have like 100. Yeah. But of those 100, it's a handful that I really go back to and really go and study with them because there's so much to learn. Once a student and a teacher meet, they are together for life. I learned that in Japan because one of my closest friends on the planet is Japanese. And that's where I learned Japanese from. Because when I met him, I said, it was in college, I said, Kazu, can you teach me karate? And he said, yeah. So I said, all right, block. And he couldn't block. And then I said, okay, well, hit me. He couldn't hit. I said, all right, well, kick. He couldn't kick. So I said, listen, man, you're not good at karate. Can you teach me Japanese just for language? And he's like, that I could do. And so that became my first Japanese teacher. We were the friends, and we still are to this day. And he told me that. He said that when a student and a teacher meet, they are together for life.
That's awesome. My man, thank you for your insight into all the into your life and all the things you've been thinking about. Tell the people where they can find you, because they need to find you, because I'm telling you, this man is talent upon talent upon talent, and as you can hear by this conversation, there's a lot of drive behind that talent.
Like to invite everyone to my website first and foremost, which is www.damianjproject.com. That's D as in Delta, A, M as in Mary, I-A-N, J as in Jack, project, all one word, DamianJproject.com. And then they can also find me on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Google+, LinkedIn, under Damian J Project, as well as our new YouTube channel at Damian J Project, which balances out food and jazz in quarantine cuisine.
All right. Awesome.
Everywhere you think of, it's just my first name, J, and Project.
All right.
I just dropped the Latin part, Sanchez, like my last name, and I replaced it with Project. And a lot of people think that that's my last name. But it's because I'm always projecting something.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'm projecting something upon you and your followers today with what I've said.
I hope so. I hope they got some good kernels of wisdom.
Something to stir up the mind. That's all we can do is continue to exercise this, because this is our most valuable muscle.
All right. So with that, I'm going to close it out with time and attention are the greatest gift we can give each other. So here's to spreading more peace, love, and smiles. Thank you, my man.
Thank you. Thank
you. And everybody out there, if you feel that this episode is amazing, please share it with your friends. You can find WEYT on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the stuff. All the things we're out there too. So until next time, peace.
Peace.
Welcome to Quarantine Cuisine. My name is Damian J, and I am your sack chef. A little stuff out that is not part of the inner part of the garlic. Make sure you get it all in there. Just gonna go ahead and make sure all these onions are nicely incorporated into our meatloaf. Sauce covering this delicious meatloaf, and these will give it some amazing flavor on top. Lots of this in a minute. All right, so here's our meatloaf. First thing you want to do when you take it out of there is you want to take the temperature.